Hello and welcome to the Weeball Podcast. Yesterday was day one of the NFL draft, and we are here already with a round two mock draft for you all. Day two is my favorite day of the draft. I don't know about Tyler, but it's an exciting time. Tyler, how you feeling about the draft?
Feeling good. Last night was absolutely crazy. I mean, I don't know how many things we could have possibly predicted that happened last night. Everything that we thought could happen, things that were even crazier ended up happening. So I think we expect a lot of the same today. Although this mock draft that we are bringing you has no trades, just because it's going to be so hard to predict what teams move up, what's going to happen. I mean, hey, we saw Will Levis fall out of the first round and we mocked him at 4 when our final mock draft came out. So yeah, this certainly should be exciting.
Yeah, it felt like we all kind of realized at the exact same time, hey, Will Levis was a pawn for every single NFL team this week. Like he was a pawn for everybody. And wow, that sounded so Italian. It wasn't even funny. I went into a full accent there. But Will Levis, I feel bad for the guy. Apparently there's a toe thing going on. So let's get into it. Let's see where he ends up. And a lot of other top talents fell as well. And the first top talent, in my opinion, that fell was Joey Porter Jr. And we have him going 32. Yes, 32 to the Steelers because Tyler's team likes to cheat.
Yeah, I mean, going to the team his dad played for, obviously that's pretty sick. I mean, the lineage thing is cool. And this is a team that desperately needed a corner. We mocked them corner, I think, a couple of times in the first round, but they ended up getting their top two needs. And in my opinion, two guys who should have been gone in the first round. You get Broderick Jones on day one, you'd start at the top of day two. And while a lot of people think they might move this pick, like you said, we have them sitting and taking Joey Porter Jr. And another team that made moves yesterday was playing absolute chess was the Arizona Cardinals, who ended up making that move with the Texans, who came up to 3. And then the Cardinals moved back up to 6 to get their tackle, Paris Johnson. And now you're sitting here at pick 33. And who would have thought that Brian Branch could possibly be on the board? I know I certainly didn't. And with the potential that you might lose Buda Baker, I think that Brian Branch is a suitable replacement and somebody who could be really good in that Jonathan Gannon type of defense. We saw what happened last year with CJ Gardner Johnson in that same similar kind of role, except I don't think that Brian Branch is going to be playing as much over the top, but still really strong player, shouldn't be here at this point. And that's kind of the theme with these first couple of picks.
Yeah, it doesn't get talked about a lot because there are guys like Will Anderson and Bryce Young on his team at Alabama. But Brian Branch is a certified culture changer from everything I've heard from inside the building. He is a guy who comes in, head down every day, grinds, pulls people with him, has been a big part in the development of a lot of young players on Alabama. So he's going to be a leader for your team for a while if you use him right, put him in good situations. And another guy who, if you put him in good situations, he's going to ball out for you is the guy that I have going at 34. It's Cam Smith. They trade out of the first round. They don't get a corner. They go with their gut. They go with their two best play, like the two players they wanted the most. They get those guys, and now they get Cam Smith. So they fill another need with another really good player, and all of a sudden this draft starts to, the public perception starts to turn around a little bit on the Lions draft.
Yeah, say what you will about the when they took their players, but they clearly have their own draft board and go their very own way about things. And as much as I'm not a fan of, maybe taking a running back at 12, Jameer Gibbs and Jack Campbell are really fun and good football players, and so is Cam Smith. So, at the very least, they're going to be a fun team next year, just like they were last year. And we move on here to another team that looks to be pretty fun. They took a Florida player with their first pick of Anthony Richardson. We're saying, hey, let's get you one of your former interior offensive linemen here in Osiris Torrance at 35 and pair them both back up. This is a team that wants to get back to mauling. That's what Shane Steichen did in Philly, with his run game schemes, and that's what he's going to do here in Indianapolis. They want to maul teams and they want to run the ball. So what's a better way to get Jonathan Taylor going on the ground than get him guys up front? You already have Quentin Nelson. Imagine the other guard spot being taken up by Osiris Torrance.
It's really funny because these first six players, I think, all could have been first round picks. And then a few after them could have been too. So it feels like we're talking about a first round mock here, but this is the second round. And there's a guy who is a physical freak, who is, he looks a lot different than a lot of the players at his position. Like he can play anywhere type thing. I mean, the Ravens had this guy try out to be a linebacker, right? I'm going with Adebawore from Northwestern. He's a Ram. I know people want Will Levis there, the connections with Kentucky and the Sean McVay offense and all that. I just don't think it happens. I don't think this team is giving up just yet on the fact that like they're supposed to be a good team. Quarterback was hurt all last year. Maybe he can turn things around this year fully healthy. I just don't think they're giving up and moving to, a rookie quarterback to be the heir apparent just yet.
Yeah, this seems like a team that with Sean McVay, they've got Aaron Donald coming back, right? Yeah, he's definitely coming back. That they want to go out and they want to still win games. So I think going out and getting somebody who can play opposite Donald and just trying to wreak havoc on that interior and somebody who can play inside out, like you said, even linebacker the Ravens wanted him at. I think it's a really good fit there. And another player that I think is a really awesome fit here at 37 is another guy that we thought could go in the first round. And like you said, that's the common theme here, and it's Keon White. The Saints like their defensive ends to be absolutely huge. They like guys who can set hard edges and play the run. And then if they can play the pass, it's an extra added bonus. And that's exactly what Keon White can be for you. Somebody who's really physical, big, and just this team needed to get better at certain positions on defense. On day one, they needed to get better at corner. We knew that. They went out, they got Devon Witherspoon. They went out and they got Jackson Smith and Jigba. They're just taking guys that are perfect fits for their systems right now. And I think that Keon White just fits that mold. And if they somehow were able to get him at 37, they would be a team we'd be talking about as winners of the draft.
Yeah, I love Keon. I think everybody knows that at this point. Really surprised when the draft board kind of fell the way it did and it pushed him into the second round. But at 38, some unfortunate things have happened to the Raiders tight end room. Obviously, prayers up to Foster Moreau, who has cancer right now. And then they got rid of, you know, my guy, Rackwall, and he's a Giant now. So, Michael Mayer just kind of makes sense here. They get a tight end who could be kind of the Hunter Henry type for them. We know Josh McDaniels loves tight ends out there in, excuse me, New England. So he kind of fits that New England tight end mold. I think it makes more sense for them than Darnell Washington does, and they get a position of need because they have, I think, nobody who's active in their tight end room right now. Like that's the level we're talking about.
Yeah, it's not great there. That's one of their weaker positions. And I think, like you said, Michael Mayer's an awesome fit. Honestly, Hunter Henry is not a comp that I thought about, and that's something that I think is really strong. Somebody, I think they're very similar players, kind of, you know, solid blockers, solid receivers, all around good players. And they get all around good players what the Carolina Panthers here are getting at 39. They got their quarterback of the future. And I have to say, just a little side note, Bryce Young wearing number 9 in a Panthers jersey. I think there's not a more fire name jersey combination than Young wearing number 9 in that Panthers blue, but that's not the point. The point is we need to go out and we got to get him a weapon. And this team has some outside guys who they like, but they don't have a slot guy. And there is arguably one of the best pure slots in the entire draft still on the board. And somebody who, some people probably had going in the first round. And I was a big fan of this player. It's Josh Downs, somebody who is an excellent route runner and really just finds ways to get open. Sometimes an unorthodox route running style, he'll take extra cuts, but at the end of the day, the dude gets open. And I don't think there's a better fit quarterback wise for somebody like a Josh Downs who might take his time than somebody like Bryce Young who can operate so much out of structure. I can imagine these two connecting on a bunch of passes when it comes to, those out of structure plays where Bryce Young's running around in circles and Josh Downs ends up breaking ankles and finding his way into the middle of the field.
Up next with the Saints. The Saints desperately need an edge rusher. I think the Saints did well to get Brian Brzee. I think it was a really good pick. It's kind of a fit that we've been talking about for a while with him. And now they're going to go out and they're going to get an SEC edge from, he's from the area, playing at LSU. It's BJ Ojulari, super underrated edge rusher, crazy speed. His speed to power is pretty good. He needs to work on his pass rush plan a little bit to be, one of those top end guys. But I think at 40, this is a really good pick for them.
Yeah, I think, like you said, this team needed edge. They lost so many defensive linemen this offseason, and it was desperate that they went out and got one. But another team that, The Titans, I really like their first round pick in Peter Skoronski. I think that was a perfect fit, somebody who they absolutely needed. And this is a team that if they want to keep winning with any semblance of the window they have to maximize Derrick Henry, and that was the way to do it. But we knew this team didn't have much confidence in Malik Willis, and we don't know the future of Ryan Tannehill. And Will Levis is still on the board at pick 41. And I know that they didn't take him at like with their first pick. So maybe the confidence isn't 100% there, but it wasn't for any NFL team. And this is somebody who should have gone in the first round. So I'm taking him now. Will Levis, going to sit behind Tannehill for, maybe part of the season, eventually steps in. And then hopefully you're looking at something where I think it's kind of a perfect fit because this is a team that doesn't want to fully close their window and try to, fully rebuild, but they also don't want to. They also might want a quarterback who can, prolong that window a little bit. So maybe just kind of a smooth transition from Tannehill to Levis. I think they're similar players, could be the next stepping stone for the Titans. And honestly, I really like this fit.
Yeah, a fit like a comp that we've thrown out a few times for Will Levis was like Ryan Tannehill plus. Like he would find the Ryan Tannehill in him before Ryan Tannehill found the Ryan Tannehill in Ryan Tannehill. That was a very confusing sentence that I just said, and it was very hard to get out. But moving on, pick 42. This is the most just he's a Packer pick of all time. It's Darnell Washington. Like he's a Packer. That's just how it is, man. He just is. There's no explanation. Really good tight end, really good blocking, decent receiving. He's basically an extra tackle out there. He is a Packer.
I mean, there's no better way to get, Jordan Love accustomed to playing in this offense full time than getting him somebody who can absolutely maul. And now you made the Aaron Rodgers trade. You pick up this extra pick and going out and being able to get a player like Darnell Washington. You had a guy like him in Mercedes Lewis. This is Mercedes Lewis plus. Okay. I think it's a great fit. So another fit that I really like here is, the team that just acquired Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. They still need some offensive linemen. There has not been any vote of confidence in Mekhi Becton, as much as I hope Mekhi Becton balls out because, I just like the player and the dude seems to be working his butt off this offseason. There seems to be no vote of confidence in him. And there's a tackle still on the board who I really like in Matthew Bergeron, somebody who's a really good pass protector and somebody who could just be really strong in this offense. I think particularly, I think it's a great fit. He's going to New York, protecting Aaron Rodgers and a team that really hopes to take over this division.
He also has guard upside. So if you like, they have good tackles, but they don't know if they're going to play the whole season. So you can put him inside and then move him outside when you have to.
Yeah, just
The
the
same
best
way you can do
five.
with Tucker. Like the same thing you can do with Tucker. It just works out perfectly for them. Moving on to pick 44. Listen, I wanted to put Tyler Scott here so bad because I think Tyler Scott is going to be a Falcon, but it's just too early for him to be a Falcon. And we went with a wide receiver because it's a clear and obvious need. Cedric Tillman, get the better of the two Tennessee wide receivers, in my opinion. More well-rounded, the type of guy that they need in that offense. And now your offense looks really good if Ritter can figure it out when you get Bijan and now you have Tillman.
Yeah, I think that gives Ritter, like you said, all the weapons needed to figure it out. And then if he doesn't work, you go get a quarterback next year, and then they just have a bunch of guys that they can throw to already. So I think going out and getting them somebody who can solidify themselves as an X would be pretty awesome. Moving on here to another Packers pick. You just took Darnell Washington. You're crushing the draft right now. And I want to continue that trend. You don't have a safety to play next to Darnell Savage right now. And I think Antonio Johnson can be just that. We've talked about a lot of the stuff Brian Branch can do. Honestly, the skill set, isn't like a 1-for-1 match, but Antonio Johnson's a really good safety and somebody who we really would be talking about a lot more if it wasn't for a guy like Branch also being available this round. So I think you're getting an absolute steal with him here at 45. And the Packers are suddenly looking like a team that if they can put it together, they still could fight for a playoff spot in that NFC North.
Yeah, man. The NFC is it's something right now. We don't really know what's going on with most of the NFC. So we're gonna move away from them. We're gonna go to 46. This is a guy who was really hot first day of the Senior Bowl. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, this guy could go in the first round." Then he has a pretty rough draft cycle after that, and now he's falling down draft boards. I'm hoping the best for the guy, but here at 46, I'm going with DeJuan Jones for the Patriots. They love those beefy, big, giant, like right tackles, and this is the perfect guy. He's a mountain. Like he's an actual mountain.
Yeah, if you think of Trent Brown, this is like Trent Brown. This could be Trent Brown plus. I think that's an awesome fit. Another player that I think is a really good fit here. We saw that Washington took Emmanuel Forbes in round one, but we're not here to grade round one picks. We're here to maximize round two picks. And another guy that we saw at the Senior Bowl and had a really good 3 day stretch, and somebody who really shot up a lot of draft boards because of that week, was John Michael Schmitz. And I really think he could be an awesome fit here. You want to go out, you want to protect Sam Howell, and most of all, you want to run the ball. And this is somebody who can absolutely maul when it comes to doing that. John Michael Schmitz, the Commanders, just seems like a really good fit, especially for a team that's lacking interior offensive linemen.
Moving on, a team that's lacking interior defensive linemen is the Detroit Lions. Again, they're sticking with their draft board, and this is a guy that I think makes this draft look even better on paper. Like again, we talked about the positional value and all that. But if you get this guy in Keanu Benton from Wisconsin, a D lineman who can play basically the entire middle of the defensive line, he can play in any of those spots. Your draft looks so good on paper. You have four really, really good high upside football players. Your draft is so much more, but so much, it has a better optics, but it's also a bunch of good football players. And that's kind of what you need if you're Detroit, because you are trying to make a playoff push. And the way to get into the playoffs is have good football players who can make plays for you down the stretch.
Yeah, and the NFC North is becoming really a fun division, honestly, with the amount of, picks and trades we've seen thus far. And another division that's pretty fun is the AFC North. And the Pittsburgh Steelers made a really good pick in round one, going out and getting Broderick Jones. And this team still needs some defensive players. They took Joey Porter earlier in this round. And I figured you went out, you got your secondary player. You're really good up front. You could use somebody in that middle, a linebacker, somebody who can really excel in man coverage and was played a lot out of position last season. Somebody who honestly may have been regarded as a first round pick if he was played in, a better spot, in my opinion. And that's Trenton Simpson. The dude is hyper athletic and just looked out of place because honestly, he was out of place last
Yeah, he
year
was.
and was a really good football player in 2021 when he was played in a more correct system for him. I think it's a really good fit. Somebody who's hyper athletic. Imagine having Trenton Simpson, Minkah Fitzpatrick on the same defense. I think you can wreak some havoc.
Yeah, that's dirty. Moving on to pick 50, the Bucks. The Bucks kind of did their own thing in round one. Kalijah Kancey, I think that was the only team that it made sense for them to go with him that early. Heard somebody say that they might play him outside a little bit in kind of like a stand-up role, which would be crazy.
That'd be fun.
It'd be so much fun. But at pick 50, I'm staying on the defensive side of the ball. You need a corner. I think they want more of, a speed guy, but who's also very smart, very tactical. And that's DJ Turner in my mind. There are other corners on the board who I personally like more, specifically Julius Brents. But I think DJ Turner makes the most sense for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I think DJ Turner's a really good fit. Somebody who, like you said, is really athletic. And this team, we really don't know the window. I think we're kind of expecting them to take some time. And that's kind of what their first two picks here now signal. And a team in Florida who isn't looking to take their time and needs to go win now. It's my Miami Dolphins. And I didn't expect this player to be here. And honestly, I'd be running this up to the podium, one way or another. I really like Steve Avila, who's also on the board. But Miami is in desperate need of a tight end, and Sam Laporta is my tight end too in this class, and that is exactly who I'm taking here. Somebody who isn't a great blocker, but is a willing blocker and is a tough player, and somebody that you think could turn into a plus blocker for you, and it is already awesome when it comes to the rack game. Really fluid in space, and that's kind of what Miami looks for above all. The reason they got rid of Mike Gesicki was less his blocking, because you can get the ball to somebody like Mike Gesicki. It was more the idea that he just didn't operate well enough in the short game. They tried throwing flats and stuff underneath to him, and he wasn't fluid enough. I think Sam Laporta fixes that problem and can be really good in this Dolphins offense.
Yeah, I think the Steve Avila Sam Laporta conversation for Miami, if they're both available at 51, is going to be it's going to be great to look. Like I would love to be a
I
fly
will
on the
have a
wall.
mental I'll have a mental breakdown during
Oh yeah, no, you
that five
will.
minutes. Yeah,
But I
it'll
would
be
love to be a fly on the wall in that conversation. Moving on, we're staying on the offensive side of the ball here. The Seahawks have done really well in this draft so far, in my opinion. And now they're going to get a center. They're going to kind of shore up that offensive line a little bit. And they're going to go with Joe Tippmann from Wisconsin, another Wisconsin boy off the board. Right now, center's like their weakest position on the offense, in general, like not just the offensive line, on the offense. And Joe Tippmann comes in. He doesn't have to start right away, but I think he can very well start right away. And he will be a good player for your team for a long time. Gino will be very happy to have this man directly in front of him.
Yeah, I think Gino already had an insane season and they solved a lot of their offensive line problems last year. So apparently they know how to draft them and develop them. So going out and getting a guy like Tippmann certainly helps. And the Bears are up again. And we thought, hey, they might take Jalen Carter, and they didn't. And this is a team that still needs somebody who kind of has inside out versatility, somebody who can, run stuff, because that interior defensive line, it's looking rough. You fixed a lot of your defense, but it still isn't perfect. And adding Thule from USC here at 53 would be a really solid pick, in my opinion. Like I said, somebody who just fills a huge need for you. I mean, this team clearly values guys who can play on the inside. Their first move when Ryan Poles was made GM was to go out and try to sign Larry Ogunjobi. So, like, they were going to give him big money. That didn't end up working out. They've been searching for a guy who can play inside and outside. And I think that's exactly what Thule is, a really versatile player and somebody who at 53 can be a steal for you.
This next pick is just another pick where I'm like, he feels like a Charger. And that's Keely Ringo. They need help at both corner and safety. Nobody knows where this kid's going to play in the NFL. He's listed as a corner. His hips aren't fluid. He's not a fluid mover. He can't flip his hips like whatsoever. Like, he's very rigid and stagnant. But he's quick. He's really quick. He's got great makeup speed, and he's got good eyes. He's a ball hawk. So you put him at safety and things work out for him. You have a superb athlete at safety. But if he works out at corner, you have this guy who has, 4.3 speed at corner and is a great mix of, length and speed. He's not super long, he's not super tall, but he is able to make up on all those plays and is a normal size corner. I think QD Ringo is a really good fit here. Again, I like other corners more than I like Keely Ringo, but the fit just makes more sense.
Yeah, you're talking about the fit with the Chargers and Keely Ringo, and I think that's awesome. And I think another fit that I really like is the Lions, and this is a team that really needs a tight end. And is there a more Lions tight end in this entire draft class than Tucker Kraft? Somebody who I literally called him the Gronk of his like competition level. The dude absolutely mauls people, and just he doesn't look like he belongs there. He looks like he belongs in the NFL, and somebody who I think can be day one a really strong blocker and can develop into one of the better pass catching tight ends in the entire NFL. And for a team that really wants to establish the run and went out and got Jahmyr Gibbs, what could be better than getting somebody who could be a very strong blocking tight end?
Okay, moving on from that, because now the Lions draft is ridiculous. After we were all talking about it as one of the worst drafts in the class, it's all of a sudden really good. But I'm going to focus on another team who had a really good night one, was able to stockpile some picks and still get a guy who can be very, very, very good for them in Anton Harrison. He's not, the most flashy pick, but I don't think it's a bad pick. And again, they're going to go with the guy who's not the flashy corner. He's not the best corner on the board, but he makes the most sense for them. They love those small corners over there in Jacksonville. And I have the Jaguars selecting Clark Phillips III from Utah, a small technical corner who's got good enough speed to like make plays happen. And I think he just fits them better than the corners below him or above him, excuse me. So I went with him. I think everyone kind of thought they were going to go corner in the first round, but they prioritized protecting their star quarterback. And that makes sense. Like that's always kind of a good thing to do. So works out for them and they still get a good corner.
Yeah, and another team that picked a corner in round one and is kind of flipping the script here, taking an offensive lineman in round two, is Luke's New York Giants. And this guy should not be on the board.
No.
The best interior offensive line prospect in this draft, or at least one of them in Steve Avila, he's just an awesome player, somebody who can slot in at guard immediately. This Giants team made the playoffs last year, and a lot of people forget that this is a team that wants to go win right now. They signed Daniel Jones to an extension, and they're looking to max him out. What's a better way to do that than going out and getting him some protection and somebody who can maul against the run?
Yeah, I think the Giants get extremely lucky with Avila being here because it just so happened that like there was no good fit for him above this, and the good fit was Miami, and Miami needed Sam Laporta more than they needed him. It just works out perfectly for the Giants. I would be ecstatic if this happened. Moving on, a team that I don't like very much is the Dallas Cowboys, and they are on the clock. And everyone knows they like Hollywood players. They kind of went away from that with Mozzie Smith, but they're still a Hollywood team, man. And Luke Musgrave is the most Hollywood tight end there is. The guy is a very, flashy, speed, downfield receiving tight end. He's been on their minds a lot from what we've been told. It's been kind of everywhere that they met with him a bunch. So, Luke Musgrave, you are a Dallas Cowboy.
Yeah, that's a really good fit for a team that likes to attack down the field. I love that fit. And I love this fit, although I don't, obviously we went from one of your division rivals to one of my division rivals in the Buffalo Bills. And this is a team that just seems to stay away from the mauling mentality. They took Dalton Kincaid in round one and just further leaned into the fact that they want to throw the ball down the field. But I still want to see them go out and get a mauler. They can use an interior offensive lineman, and there might not be a better one left on the board than Cody Maw from North Dakota State. Somebody who we saw at the Senior Bowl, and a lot of people really fell in love with there. This dude is a freak and somebody who just he's just a mauler, and that's really what he is. He might be a little bit raw, but I think he slots in right away and just already is a better run blocker than what they have. Although the pass blocking might take some time, I still think he can be a great football player in Buffalo.
And you always kind of have to be a little wary of the run with Buffalo, anyways, because of Josh Allen. So that alone is going to help Cody in his development because he's going to have a little bit more time to process than somebody who's, blocking for a pocket passer type quarterback. Moving on to pick 60, I'm getting the Bengals a corner, and this guy should not be here. This guy is he should have been end of round one, early round two guy, but the fit just didn't work out anywhere that it made sense to take him. And this is Julius Brents finally coming off the board. He should have gone so much higher than this, but the Bengals get an absolute steal. And now we don't have to hear about Eli Apple anymore. So it's perfect.
Yeah, and we're going to do a little corner run here, a little mini one, back-to-back corners going. And this time it's the Bears, a team that has Jalen Johnson but could use another corner. And why not go out and get somebody who's just absolutely physical? Another guy we saw at the Senior Bowl seems to be a common thread. We love to draft our Senior Bowl guys. It's Tyreek Stevenson. The dude is physical. The dude talks trash, and he backs it up. Really strong football player and somebody who brings back some of that old Bears mentality to this defense.
So the Eagles, who had an incredible night one, if everything works out for them the way that they're hoping it does, they might have won the draft on night one alone. But at pick 62, I'm giving them a running back because there wasn't one for them to draft the way that the board fell. So they get the third best running back available kind of in the consensus, and that is Zach Charbonnet. Personally, not my third best running back, but he's well liked throughout the league, and I think that this is a really good spot for him. He's kind of the best of the both worlds of the two running backs they have, and he's bigger than both of them. So it just kind of makes sense to have him in this spot to continue to build up that run offense. They really only needed a safety or a corner, and there's not really one there for them to take. So I went with running back.
Yeah, and another team, obviously the Super Bowl champions and the Chiefs here, a team that didn't have that many needs. And we knew last year when they got rid of Tyreek Hill, the goal was to rein Patrick Mahomes in a little bit. You wanted him taking more of the underneath stuff. You wanted to just pick teams apart because he went from being one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks in the NFL to being one of the most mentally gifted quarterbacks in the NFL, and just started picking teams apart with his mind. And now we want an extra element. We've got these guys who can operate underneath, and now we're saying, hey, we want to be able to stretch you at all levels of the field. And we saw what the Eagles went out and did. They improved on their strengths, and we want to improve on our passing strengths. So let's go out and get the best deep threat receiver in this entire draft class. It's Jalen Hyatt, somebody who we're talking about, maybe his skills won't translate. In Kansas City, there's one guy who can figure out how to make your skills translate. It's Andy Reid. I think Hyatt's an awesome fit here and somebody who Patrick Mahomes could really maximize the talent of.
That is going to be it for the Wee Ball round two mock draft. night one was incredible. We're hoping for an incredible night two, specifically for the Giants, not the Dolphins at all. But we got some big stuff coming as this cycle winds down. 2024 is going to be our draft cycle where we take over. We thank you so much for listening, watching. However, you're consuming this information, we thank you for doing it. Like, comment, subscribe. Get ready for May 1st. It is going to be insane. Thank you, and we ball.